Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself, and flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are all born to help each other. No matter how difficult it is, life is good when you are happy, but much better when others are happy because of you.
All right, we apologize for that and welcome back. And we'll just continue from where I stopped. Rather, we'll start all over again, bringing you the latest news from across the continent of Africa. We start from Chad. In Chad, the interim president, Mohamed Idris Deby, has pardoned 380 rebels from Group the Front for Change and Concord in Chad, FACT. They were part of a group of 400 people who were handed life sentences last Tuesday in connection with the 2021 death of his father, the country's longtime ruler Idris Deby Itno. He was killed when he went to visit troops fighting FACT on the front line in northern Chad. The group had launched an offensive earlier that year from bases in Libya. The rebels were found guilty of terrorism, undermining national security, endangering the life of the head of state, and the recruitment of children, among other charges. The exiled leader of the rebel group, Muhammad Mahdi Ali, who was tried and convicted in absentia, was not included in the presidential pardon. Idris Deby, who was installed by the military junta after his father's death, has held peace talks with various rebel groups since then. But FACT has not taken part, saying the transitional authorities needed to make gestures of peace first, including releasing prisoners. He had promised to hold democratic elections after 18 months, which would have been in October 2022, but has now said the vote will take place in 2024. This led to violent anti-government protests in which at least 60 people died and hundreds others were arrested. And the latest on this diplomacy battle, I believe, between the US and China, but also jostling for power struggles, rather. The United States is to hold a summit for democracy this week, which will be co-hosted with leaders from Zambia, Costa Rica, the Netherlands, and South Korea. This second edition of the forum on 29th to 30th March takes place against the backdrop of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Leaders from around the world, including from several African countries, will discuss strengthening democratic institutions, tackling corruption, and defending human rights. And it comes hard on the heels of the second International Forum on Democracy, which took place in the Chinese capital, Beijing. Last week, politicians, scholars, and experts in various fields from over 100 countries and regions attended the gathering. It centered around 5 main themes, focusing on democracy, sustainable development, innovation, global governance, diversity, and modernization. Participants said there was no single formula or model for democracy, saying that each country has its own political culture and national needs. Okay. And the latest on the visit of Vice President of the U.S. to Ghana. I think she should be on her way to Tanzania now. The U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris on Monday praised Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo for his democratic principles during a visit with a West African leader who's facing rising discontent over inflation and fresh concerns about regional security. Harris is just beginning a week-long trip to the continent that will also take her to Tanzania and Zambia, a part of a concerted effort to broaden U.S. outreach at a time when China and Russia have entrenched interests in their own in Africa. On Monday, the Vice President was welcomed into the Ghanaian presidential palace called the Jubilee House, where she promised assistance with security in the nation and increased investments there, announcing $100 million US aid to the region. Akufo-Addo oversaw one of the world's fast-growing economies before the COVID-19 pandemic. However, the cost of food and other necessities has been skyrocketing, and the country is facing a debt crisis as it struggles to make payments. During the meeting with Harris, Akufo-Addo called for solidarity as countries like Ghana worked to get their economies back on track. He also expressed concern that private American investors tend to overlook the nation. In addition, sporadic fighting has increased Ghana's north, which borders the more tumultuous nation of Burkina Faso and the Sahel, a region where local offshoots of Al-Qaeda and Islamic State group have been operating. Akufo-Addo called terrorism a poison that was spreading across West Africa, making the region unstable. During a press conference following their meeting, Akufo-Addo said he was concerned about terror groups but said he had normal confirmation that Al-Qaeda is present in the nation. He also said he had no formal confirmation. He also said that he worried that the Russian mercenary force known as the Wagner Group expand its footprint in the region. Some of the money pledged by Harris will require congressional approval, which could prove difficult amid sharp partisan differences over the federal budget. The Treasury Department also plans to dispatch an advisor to Accra to help manage the country's burdensome debt. Other programs are intended to reduce child labor, improve weather forecasting, support local musicians, and defend against disease outbreaks. The United States has already sent troops to train militaries from Ghana and other countries in the hopes of bolstering their defenses. However, other countries have turned to Wagner, which has been on the front lines of Russia's war in Ukraine, but also has a presence here in Africa. Okay, and then we go to Nigeria, and since a jihadist insurgency started in Nigeria over a decade ago, fighters caused the deaths of more than 40,000 people, forcing 2 million to displace, according to the United Nations. At the weekend, Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff disclosed that between July 2021 and May 2022, that about 13,360 Boko Haram fighters surrendered to the federal government. In total, 51,828 Boko Haram fighters and their family members gave themselves up to the authorities. General Lucky Irabo disclosed it while delivering a lecture to the 7th Founders Day ceremony of the Edo State University. He also touched on the Operation Safe Corridor topic. The program was created as a transitional justice approach similar to the Niger Delta Amnesty program launched by the federal government in 2009. It involves the setting up of special facilities where repentant terrorists who surrender their arms could be rehabilitated. If General Lucky Irabo mentioned over 2,000 graduates. He however listed challenges to the program, among which lack of specialized training experts and inadequate physical structure, inadequate collaboration and coordination, absence of appropriate legislation on integration, law agency and international participation, as well as ineffective monitoring system during the last presidential campaign. Then candidate Bola Tinubu promised to fighting terror, banditry and kidnapping and violent agitation. In his brochure entitled Renewed Hope, he said that when he'll be elected, his administration would enhance recruitment of personnel and bolster existing agencies and systems to achieve this fundamental national security goal. It remains to be seen whether his plan will prove effective and life-changing enough for millions of Nigerian citizens whose lives have been turned upside down with the groups like Boko Haram. We head over to Libya now. And UN investigators have accused Libyan state security forces and armed militia groups of committing a wide array of crimes with impunity, many of which could amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity. The three-member UN independent fact-finding mission on Libya on Monday presented its final report on what it called the country's deteriorating human rights situation since the beginning of 2016, and the picture it paints is not pretty. The investigation has documented numerous cases of arbitrary detention, murder, rape, enslavement, extrajudicial killing, and enforced disappearance. Despite the gravity of these crimes, the investigators noted that nearly all the survivors interviewed refrained from lodging official complaints out of fear of reprisals, arrest, extortion, and lack of confidence in the judicial system. Mohamed Auja, the chair of the Libyan fact-finding mission, said the body found overwhelming evidence that migrants have been systematically tortured while in detention, and that sexual slavery, a crime against humanity, was committed against migrants. Okay, and then we come back to East Africa, this time to Uganda. Officers of the Ugandan police force have performed an anti-riot drills in anticipation of Kenya-like protests in urban areas due to the rising cost of living. Police directorates held joint drills at the training facility in Kego, Wakiso district on Monday, where they displayed their capabilities to deal with terror attacks and protests. At the same time, the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Major General Geoffrey Kazingazi, personally witnessed the drills. Police spokesperson Fred Enanga told the Daily Monitor on Monday that several groups, including those from the opposition, are holding secret meetings with the intention of rallying their members to carry out street protests. Similar uprisings due to food prices in 2011 led to the toppling of African leaders in Egypt, Tunisia, and Libya. In Uganda, the protest, codenamed Walk to Work, led by Mr. Matthias Mpuga, now the leader of the opposition in parliament, and Dr. Kiza Besigye, lasted for 5 years and left more than a dozen people killed and hundreds injured. Another Kigo drill, the joint police team reenacted an incident that happened during the recent general elections, where police arrested National Unity Platform leader Robert Changulanyi, alias Bobi Wine, in Luuka district, leading to protests in which security personnel killed 54 people and arrested hundreds of others. Kampala Metropolitan Police spokesperson Patrick Onyango said the drill was intended to show how to handle incidents that involve fast from use of tear gas to live bullets. Since the 2020 November protest, the Ugandan government has invested billions of shillings in the procurement of equipment to deal with civil disobedience. Police brought 65 trucks, including 5 riot control vehicles, this month. Some of the trucks use laser beams to target protesters. The laser causes serious headaches. Okay. Yeah. All right. So the latest from the Democratic Republic of Congo. A surge in attacks in the east of the DRC has claimed more than 700 lives at the hands of militia fighters since December, the United Nations said on Monday. Rebel militias have plagued eastern DRC for decades, many of them a legacy of regional wars that flared during the 1990s and early 2000s. He said the violence was committed mainly by the Allied Democratic Forces ADF and Islamist allied group, a notorious militia called Codeco and M23 insurgents. Guterres, who was speaking about this matter, also expressed concern over human rights violations, saying at least 628 people died from extrajudicial killings by armed groups around the country, and not just in 3 eastern DRC provinces. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who has said in a quarterly report that the security situation in eastern DRC has deteriorated with a steep surge in violence. Guterres also expressed concern over human rights violations. He said that he said he was worried about a rise in hate speech exacerbated by M23 violence. A surge in attacks in the eastern part of the DRC has claimed more than 700 lives at the hands of militias since December. That is according to this report that was presented to the United Nations yesterday. And Guterres also expressed concern over human rights violations. I have said that. And of course, Kinshasa and several Western government powers say the M23 are backed by Rwanda, eyeing the natural resources across the border, a claim denied by Kigali. Guterres said he was worried about the rise of hate speech and all that. All right, so that is the latest news from across the continent of Africa this afternoon. The report to the United Nations, I'm not surprised. I told you one of the key mandates of MONUSCO, or these peacekeeping missions by the United Nations in any country, one of the key mandates is monitoring and evaluation and reporting. So when you hear this report has been filed, just know that MONUSCO has been keeping tabs with what has been happening and filing and, monitoring what is happening. So when it is presented to the United Nations, then they were part of the people who compiled this report, because they are there. Do I need to remind us that we have 18,000 plus peacekeeping mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo. 16,000 of them are the combat, that is the military, and then over 2,000 are the UN staff. And of this 2,000 makes up now this staff that go ahead and collect this information and all that and compile. That is the work that they do. So monitoring and surveillance and compiling these reports that keep being presented at the United Nations Security Council. I don't know if these reports change anything. They just let us know what is happening that we already know, but I don't know if they would necessitate a response from I don't know what party. At this point it's very difficult. And I think I did spend a good amount of my time in the morning talking about the issues at DRC and Rwanda and his visit, President Kagame's visit to Qatar. And I was just hoping that Qatar will prevail on him as he prevailed, on him, or to release Paul Rusesabagina. So hopefully Qatar might be able to prevail on President Paul Kagame to take a different trajectory, but that is yet... we'll just leave that there and just move on, to other stories. Now, Uganda police is carrying out drills in anticipation of protest, and it really did beef up its combat equipment. It procured, specifically invested billions of shillings in the procurement of equipment to deal with civil disobedience. They bought 65 trucks, including 15 riot control vehicles this month, right? And some of the trucks use laser beams to target protesters, and the laser causes serious headaches. So they've really invested in good technology there to fight the citizens. Why do countries have to invest so much in this technology and this kinds of equipment to fight their own people? If you did things the right way, you wouldn't have to spend this much of taxpayers' money to buy things that will go on to hurt them and harm them, and if they decide they want to protest, protesting is part of the Constitution, as long as it is done in a way that is not injuring anybody, it's not causing harm, it is not causing anybody's destroying anyone's property. Maybe most of the times that doesn't happen. Some people's businesses and otherwise becomes collateral. But, France, they've been protesting, I don't know since when, and they are very destructive. They've been protesting, and it has been a running battles between the French and the French police there. But it is within, it is just part of the democracy. So if you have decided that you want to embrace democracy, then picketing is just part of it, as long as nobody's destroying anybody's property or causing threat to anybody's life. It should be allowed. Matter of fact, the authorities are meant to be providing security to anybody who wishes to protest or demonstrate. So that is what President Museveni, you need to invest in. I will not even get into our story here in Kenya. I'll just let that be, But if you were to invest so much of this stuff to fight your own people, something is amiss. Yeah, you've even gone very technological. You're looking for those with laser beams that will target protesters and give them serious headaches. Okay, so where did you get this one from? Russia? All right, let's just leave that there. Anyway, so there's another report that has been brought. I want to rush quickly because today I'll end the show a bit early. There's another report. I don't know if I should look at it now or tomorrow in the morning. This report that was presented to the United Nations over, maybe I'll look at it tomorrow in the morning. Let's look at the visit of Ghana by the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, because I think she's on her way, or she should be on her way to Tanzania, and also in Zambia. So she's been in Ghana. And yesterday she had a meeting with President of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, and she did praise Ghana's president for his democratic principles. And this happened during the visit by Kamala Harris in West Africa, specifically in Ghana. And of course, she said that the U.S. she promised assistance with security in the nation and increased investment there, announcing $100 million US. So what really caught me about this story, Ghana has been struggling with its economy. And before that, Ghana was really doing very well until COVID-19 hit. And COVID-19 caused a havoc, not just in Ghana, across Africa and indeed across the world. So that is something that all countries that are still reeling from. And we expect this year that there will be a financial meltdown around the world. So we're braving ourselves, and it's going to happen. But that is what had been forecasted by this economist who understand how the market works, global market works, right? So Ghana was doing pretty well until the COVID happened. So COVID happened, and Ghana has been struggling so much. And I think earlier this year, it was seeking for its debt. Did it want its debt to be cancelled or to restructure its payment? One of those, because it does owe some of these breadth institutions, the IMF, the World Bank, and it does also, other countries as well. So Ghana has been really, really on bad trajectory. Has been on a bad trajectory as far as its financial situation is concerned. So is everybody else in the world. Okay, but Africa has been mostly hit with this COVID-19 pandemic. Now, where I'm struggling to understand, of course, they talked about a lot of things, and they talked about, of course, he keeps bringing up the issue of Russian mercenaries and how the neighbors to Russia are inviting these Russian mercenaries, and what this perhaps could mean as far as the security situation in Ghana. So he's feeling, President of Ghana is feeling a bit uneasy, the fact that these people are very much close to his country, The way Russia was feeling uneasy when Ukraine even started to play with the idea of joining NATO, and that is what brought this war that we see now, because it felt, having NATO members that close to its borders will not be good for its security, will not be good for and strategic intelligence reasons. So he decided, before you bring those NATO people, I will invade you, and I will stop it before it happens. So that is just one of the reasons why Russia invaded Ukraine. So I think it is the same feeling that Ghana is feeling, with having these mercenaries working with countries that they border they share a border with, like Burkina Faso, like Mali, those countries in West Africa, and it is not the first time that he is, expressing this concern. But most importantly, I think it is something that that Harris promised, because Harris promised that the U.S. During the meeting with Harris, Akufo-Addo called for solidarity as countries like Ghana work to get the economies back on track. He also expressed concern that private American investors tend to overlook the nation. In addition, I want to skip that, but she said, I think what he was saying is that what she promised, well, some of the money pledged by Harris will require congressional approval, which could prove difficult amid sharp partisan differences over the federal budget. The Treasury Department also plans to dispatch the Treasury Department in the U.S. Yes, this is the part I was looking for. Let me just highlight that. The Treasury Department in the U.S. also plans to dispatch an advisor to Accra to help manage the country's burdensome debt. Like Ghana, all the people that are educated there, with all the bright minds that I see even across the world platform, Ghana does not have a proper advisor to advise the government on how to manage the country's burdensome debt, that now the U.S. had to take upon itself from the Treasury Department in the U.S. to bring its person to advise the government of Ghana, which they will pay. Ghana will pay this person on how to help manage the country's burdensome debt. This is ridiculous. You're essentially saying, come on, he's on Central Bank and Ministry of Finance. You take over and work on the numbers for us and make them make sense. You can't do that. I believe these are things that, come on, Ghana now, you're embarrassing us. You're the first country to get independence in this continent. Ghanaians are educated people. Ghanaians are smart people. You can get people who are financially literate, who have this acumen that is required to help the government in advising the government and how to deal with its economy. But I'm sure, just as the rest of the African countries, we lack confidence in our own people. We lack confidence in our own talents, in our own skills, and anything black and from us is considered not good enough. So you are going to ship a person all the way from the US to come from the Treasury Department to come to Ghana and help you rearrange your debt and help you work out how to manage your burdensome debt. This is ridiculous, Ghana. You are a country that a lot of African countries look up to in this continent, seeing that you got your independence first. Come on now, you got your independence first. And I know times are tough, but I want to believe there are competent people in Ghana who can actually take on the role of advising the government without involving the US into the management of your treasury. That is a red flag for me. And anytime, I don't mind working, and in the morning I was talking to you about interdependentness and connectedness that it exist in the international system. It is important. One country cannot make it without the other and things like that. So it is very important. That is just how globalization has made it for us. So we are interdependent, we are interconnected, we are all of that stuff, which is good for a harmonious international system. Is perfect. But there are certain aspects and there are certain issues in certain sectors in our countries that I feel a bit anxious when I see our government deciding to involve foreign countries or foreign actors in. This is our elections. I don't like it when foreign actors sponsor our electoral processes, because we've seen the end of that. There's nothing good that ever comes out of that. A lot of arm twisting, a lot of blackmailing, a lot of things do happen, because when you allow them to be part of a process or an institution that is quite paramount and core for a country, then you have invited intruders and you have invited outsiders to spaces they should not be having access to. So you should not be bringing an advisor from the Treasury State Department in the US to come and expose your whole financial system to. I don't think that is okay. I don't think that is okay. I want to think that Ghana has capable people who can handle its problems, has capable people who can advise the government on what to do, have people who have gone to school, who understand economics, who understand the financial trends, who understands debts and debt cancellation. And I'm sure maybe they write about it there, maybe they talk about it in the media there. But the government, as I have said, across Africa, we are normally not very they don't take advice from their people very well. And that is the problem we have. And we do have highly qualified people in this continent. Ghana, you don't need anybody from the US to come and tell you how to do and what to do and how to restructure your debt and how to manage the country's burdensome debt. All right? If you can't handle, if you borrow and use the money recklessly, or if you don't have discipline as far as even your borrowing is concerned, then that will still be a problem. So I think for a long-term solution, you need to find a homegrown solution there. And I'm sure there are people in Ghana who are qualified, who can give you just as good advice that this advisor from the Treasury Department in the US is coming to supposedly give you there in Ghana. So I'm disappointed that this is something that you would even consider. I think that is what maybe Harris told him, like, okay, fine, we're giving you this money and you're in a lot of trouble and all these other problems that you're telling us. So what are you going to do now? You're getting you somebody to try to help you. All right? And this is just unacceptable. You can collaborate with the US in so many other things. You know, you can collaborate in so many other aspects in development, you know, these developmental partners. You can do that. It's part of diplomacy. It's part of how we engage. But there are areas that there has to be some boundaries, you know. There are areas that outside countries or outside interest or outside actors should not be having access to. That is what I'm saying. That includes the heart of the country's financial system, you know, treasury or otherwise. So that is a problem. That is problematic, I think. So I don't know. Maybe there are no people who are qualified in Ghana, but I don't think that is the case. I'm sure if President Nana Akufo-Addo looked around, he will find very sharp Ghanaians there who will be willing to offer their services and who might just be even better than these officials that are meant to be coming from the US to help the country in looking at its debt burden. It's not rocket science, man. This is just basic economics. You know, it's just basic economics. Someone in Ghana can do it. All right? I want to thank you so much for your time this afternoon. God willing, we shall meet here tomorrow at 10 a.m. East African time for more news from across the continent of Africa. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.
Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself, and flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are all born to help each other. No matter how difficult it is, life is good when you are happy, but much better when others are happy because of you.